Peace and grand rising to the heirs. Today is October the 4th, 1440 on the sun calendar, 1441 on the moon calendar, 2020 on the Gregorian calendar, which is actually the Greco-Roman calendar hypothecated. Grand rising to the sovereign heirs.
Is on those on the Bay, New Jersey territory.
Grand rising heirs are still coming in, so
Malik Fakari Bay, Long Beach, Cliff territory.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, Islam. On the screen, there is a statement on the screen, and that statement is about is something that we want to keep in mind as we continue with what we're doing. And I'm going to take just a moment and read the statement. So I'm going to mute the meeting so that that the statement can be heard. And then please unmute whenever you feel free to do so. Star 6 will unmute you. So hold on for just a moment. That's not what I want to do. Let me see. Okay. I'm going to read the statement really quickly because it's really important that we know. It's about loving one another while we decolonize our minds. This is something that the ancestors put on my mind this week because we are experiencing energies that are so beautiful where we're waking up. And we want to be sure that as we wake up sensitive to one another and sensitive to what we need as a nation from one another and for one another. So as our nation continues to awaken,
hey, Pauline, I command you to lock up your call. I command you, Pauline, lock up your call.
Oh, boy. Okay. It says, as our nation continues to awaken, just a moment. Let me make sure that I can get this. Okay. As our nation continues to awaken, we will find out information that completely alters the programming frequency that we allow colonization to run in our minds. When this change begins to run its course, not all of us will handle the change in the same manner. For many more, the change will be welcome, and it will be a smooth transition out of colonized thinking. In other cases, there will be those who fight the change that the new inner formation brings. They may resist and fight, which will cause them to exert an undue amount of energy, trying to regain the comfort level that they had before they learned the new information. Cognitive dissonance may cause them to say things that may be hurtful or warlike. It is the same as abruptly waking someone up. Let us give them plenty of space to let the uncomfortability run its course, and always let us forgive them in advance and be prepared to assist them and love them through their process. When they calm down, they will need us and we will need them. Therefore, preservation of a long-term relationship is a key for our nation. We are not afraid to stand down with each other. It is a mark of our strength to do so. We are strong in mind, body, and spirit, and we have been given exactly what we need by our ancestors to stand with our brothers and sisters. For the sovereign heirs, standing down patiently with one another is really standing up strong, sovereign, and unstoppable for our nation. Much peace, much love, and long live the Moorish American Empire. Okay, and the reason that I put that there, the reason that came forth this week from the ancestors is because we are seeing energies, we're seeing Moors wake up all over the place, and when they wake up and hear what they need to hear about ourselves and also about the colonizers and the invaders, sometimes that can be disturbing. It can be disturbing, and it can cause them to want to, lash out, et cetera, et cetera. And we want to be sure that that we are patient with one another through that process. Okay. And so that's the reason why, it's just patience with our nation and with those who are, who are waking up and they're hearing things and they don't agree with those things, and that's okay. We don't all have to agree. And in fact, there will be many, many times that we don't agree. But we have to be patient with one another. Islam, we have to be patient with one another and allow one another's space to come to terms with whatever it is, whatever the information is.
Pauline, you stupid cunt.
You stupid. Back and forth. We need to be willing to banter back and forth with one another. And that doesn't mean argue, but it does mean sovereign, noble debate about the things that are going on, because as a nation, we're going to have those conversations. And so we need not be afraid of them. We have to have them. We have to have them. And
delusional Negroes. Pauline, you're a fucking Negro delusional bitch. Pauline, you stupid fucking
And so, we're going to have those conversations, and we're not going to be afraid of them. And, because some come in and they say, well, we should just all be peaceful, and we should just all be, and we are peaceful. We're going to be that. That's in our nature. But
why are you lying to these people, Pauline?
We do have to have those conversations. So let's be prepared to have the tough conversations about where to go next, because as you can see, there's no going back. That whole thing over there, that capitalism system and the occupation system, is finished. And when I say finished, I mean it's done. And so now, we always have been self-governing, but at this point, we are truly self-governing. And that's in application in our everyday life. We're doing that. And so,
Pauline, you're a big old fucking liar.
Over time, as we continue, just do your best, heirs, to ignore that. I'm not going to lock the meeting right now. I'll lock it occasionally, but I'm not going to lock it right now because more are coming in. And that's the part that they're attempting to prevent, is so that the Moors don't get to come in and participate in their national calls. And so let's just let that run its course. Because that's just an energy. We'll just let it run its course. Hopefully it doesn't bother you too much. It doesn't bother me at all, because I already know that, they're finished, and that's a wrap. So are there any questions or comments about that? The information is actually inner formation. So it's forming, again, our inner constitution. Our inner constitution is what we're made of on the inside. Some people call it gut. But the information that we're getting from our...
Pauline, I commanded you to lock this call.
From our Akashic records and from our ancestors, that information is forming us as a nation. And it's the foundation is already there. The foundation is within us. And so all we have to do from this point forward is continue to demonstrate who we are, and keep moving forward. Because again, that other thing over there is done, it's finished, and I think everyone is aware of that. Are there any
fucking cult members?
Are there any updates in the field from any of the territories? Any issues that we need to discuss as a nation, or anything of that nature? Any demonstrations that have been done before we get into the, we need to talk about the homeschooling. Empress Michelle is here. and if it's Carla,
this must be the welfare mothership.
Some of the other mothers. If you all want me to lock the meeting, I'll lock it. But as you can see, even when he first came in, there's 20 more people who come in just since then, and so I don't want to lock them out. Islam.
Why don't you take over a post office?
Any questions? Yes, Islam.
I didn't have any questions or any demonstrations to talk about yet, but I did kind of want to touch on what I've been learning about affidavits and how it kind of ties into everything that we're doing. So basically what I've learned so far is that your affidavit is the sworn statement of facts, but it's not quite the same thing as a claim that's been filed in the court. And what might make some demonstrations go a little bit smoother, like I had to take a step back and try to figure out how I wanted to package my nationality proclamation, but the affidavit is there because and also too, just as like a sovereign reminder to the heirs that you should specify, or I recommend that you actually specify in your affidavit how much time you're giving them to respond, so that it becomes very clear that after the 3 days or the week or 2 weeks or maybe even the month that they don't respond, they've now the law in that affidavit now stands, and our liens are done via affidavits as well. So once those things are done, then the court actually.
Hey, Pauline, how come Dalilah's
behind that? For example, like I was looking on RP Bay Publications website and looking at some of their files about, previously before we were rebuilding the consulate, they would just send in the it's called a statement of claim. In the small claims court, or maybe even in the probate court, you put in a statement of small claims, and they'll ask you to tender a fee. But for us, obviously being sovereign, it looks something more like along the lines of just sending in a notice that this subject is being brought into court, and just kind of like the separation between the affidavit, which is the facts, and if they want to concede the affidavit, then it becomes law. Going into
what the fuck is the people?
And going into
what the fuck is going on?
Keep going.
Right.
Keep going. Keep going.
Going into the actual court.
Pauline, I command you to lock this call.
Already, some of the mechanics that have already been set up for the consular court that we have, and after all of that stuff is done, then the writs. So, and also too, the differences between the affidavits and the writs. Your writs, meaning like some of the things that we have on the grid, being like the property repossession, that would be a writ versus an affidavit, because the writ of something like that will go out saying, we've already gave them an opportunity to be heard. They've defaulted in court, and so here's the writ for repossession, and then you should expect the Moors to come and repossess the property. I understood too that sometimes some of the heirs will send out their affidavits, and if they don't get a response, they'll send out a default. But I'm not too sure if that is in alignment with what our ancestors have already set up. Just because you can't default on an affidavit, but you can default on a notice of breach of trust, because when you send out something that's establishing your right as a creditor or as an heir, the breach of trust is the only thing that can necessarily be defaulted, because that's how people end up getting in trouble when the corporate courts will send out fake warrants, and not being shown up. It's because then it's in trust. And just also too, to remind the Moors or recommend that you set up your trust first before you actually do a lien, because at the bottom of the lien it asks if the collateral is held in trust. So that kind of implies that a trust is set up. Send out an affidavit regarding to that as well before those things take place. So with that, I yield. I know that was
Islam.
Right.
Islam. Thank you for the research that you're doing. let's just look at a couple of things with regard to that real quick, and then we'll go into the homeschooling, because that's actually why we're here. When you say make a claim, who are you making a claim to? You're making a claim to subjects who have nothing. They came here with nothing, and they're leaving here with nothing. And so you're making a claim, and then whose court are you going into? Is it a real court or a fake court? So you're appealing to the subjects. You're actually appealing to Slavs, S-L-A-V-S, Slavs, slaves. That's why they cannot have names in all lowercase letters. That's why they have, at Ellis Island, everyone was put under the subject status at Ellis Island. Now, whether they acted that way or not is different, because we were not in alignment. But those are subjects. They don't have anything to give you. That's why people who've been out there trying to get things from them can't get anything but a jail term from them, because they don't have anything to give you. They keep pointing back at us saying, you all have everything. Why do you keep asking us? Everything belongs to us. So why jump through all those hoops of appealing to someone who is not, who doesn't have anything? Because remember, subjects can't even own property. So what are we asking them for property for? What we have to do is actually stand up and all of the jobs that you see them doing out there that secure property, we have to do them. They have policy enforcers. Okay, we're the law. We're the government. We have to do that to secure property. We're the law. We're the government. They're not. And so, I mean, I understand all of those mechanics. I get the mechanics of it, but you got to remember who you're appealing to, and then do the etymology on the word claim. The only thing that we should be saying to them is commands. That's it, because they don't have anything. A claim means that someone somewhere can, have something to say about your claim. They can say, okay, well, we don't think that's a valid claim. Well, they can't say that. We can, though. Now, all of those mechanics will become necessary when there are no more subjects pretending to be government here. Once we clear up that mess, then we're going to need those mechanics with one another. So we have to know that. So it's good that you know those things. And then that's why we have to have our own courts, and everyone should be doing court actions, etc. Okay? All those Albions we're doing is modeling long enough to teach us how to govern. Okay? Our prophet said it. And once we know how to govern, which is what we're doing, that's what having our own courts and our own police and our own military and our own all of that, our own everything. That's what that is. Once we see them do it, then we do it. And they are not necessary anymore. Islam.
Yeah, Islam, Empress. I understand. I guess I was more so thinking about the maximum of law that, someone that still deserves the right to be heard, and also too the paper or the public, the research that was put out by the Senate or one of the corporate offices that talked about a more subject ipso jure, and if that it should be regarded as the same thing as a stateless person.
A more subject ipso jure is someone who's in their proper status, not someone attempting to or pretending to be government. That's someone who's in their proper status.
Right.
And those pretending to be judges, that's not a proper status. It's not. We're the judges.
Islam.
And then you mentioned something about a trust. The trust has been in place since time immemorial. Yes, we do. We're going to have to. Everyone needs to have a trust written out. Whiche's Express Trust book, that book. Whiche's Concise Trustee Handbook is the name of it. Whiche's Concise Trustee. That's one of the books that we can look at, and we can pull some of the information from it and apply it to our sovereign status, but not, you know, again, we have to know what our sovereign status sounds like and looks like, you know, in order to do that competently, which we do, all of us do, you do, we're competent. And so with regard to the trust has been there since before we started doing liens. And our Prophet Noble Drew Ali put some things in place, but there were things in place even before he came here that our ancestors put in place, where the Constitution and the treaties and further back and further back and further back, all the way through our history, back through ancient times. The trust is written in stone all over this land. Every writing that our ancestors did is a trust. It is further assertion of that trust. And so we're competent to go ahead and put a trust in place, you know, now, and then those trusts will become very, very important. They're already super important right now, and they're going to become even more important as we begin dealing with one another, because there will be no Albions around here, you know, talking about you have to come to this court or you have to pay this and you have to do that. That's not even a thing. It's not even real. So everything that we're learning is so that we can govern where each other is concerned and not where, you know, where we're going to their courts, making a claim and doing all of that. So everything that you expressed is valuable. We need to know it because we're going to be using that as we move forward as a nation. Okay, but right now where fake Albions are concerned, they have to be out of your picture. You have your vision, and this is each one of us individually. We each have to remove them off of our estate. Each of us has to do that. Each of us must terminate all corporate contracts, and when you terminate corporate contracts, you don't then go back and send them paperwork saying, I have a claim, do you honor my claim? You know. So we have to be careful where all of that is concerned with regard to them. But everything that you're expressing is absolutely what we're going to need.
Islam. Yeah,
Islam.
Some of the words, you know, only reason I chose the word claim is because you know, the citizens or the stateless persons, they go in and they file petitions, and that's, you know, a more obvious way of asking, of revealing that you're simply asking for permission. But a claim, or I like the word that you use much better, a command, is definitely in that matrix of how we operate. Islam.
And then at the point that we're at right now, we're not even, the only command I have for them is your services are no longer needed. That's the only command I have for them. Some have other things that they want to say to them, and we're all sovereign. We can say whatever we want to say. We don't all have to be saying the same thing, but at this point, my command is your services are no longer needed. We fired you way back when and told you we don't need the United States Corporation Company, and we're not going to keep going back and forth with them about that, you know, because they have to do what we say. And if we keep sending them something to do, if we keep employing them, then they're going to keep violating. And to me, that's not necessary. It's not necessary. I don't care for that. That's not going to happen. They're fired, period, you know. And we're not gonna deal with that. They're fired. So I now would like to yield the floor to
Pauline. I thought
Empress. I want to yield the floor to Empress Michelle and Empress Carla with regard to the homeschooling piece. If there, you know, if there's anything that you want to expound on at this time. I did want to say a little bit about what Grand Sheik mentioned on Friday. He held
try to fucking kick me off my.
He held some books up on Friday at House of Reawakening Minds, and we want to keep those books in mind because those books are a part of.
Pauline, I command you to.
those books are going to be a part of our curriculum starting out. And then as we go through the years, there'll be other authors among us who are going to be writing curriculum for us as well. And some of that is already in the works from some of our young Moors who are coming in and who have some awesome, purely allodium type information for us as well. So we don't want to overlook anyone or any resource on our land because we know we're the resources. So Grand, she held up some books by Abdullah Talib Mosey Bey. Be sure that those are a part of the curriculum for the heirs as well, for the mothers, for the matriarchs who are homeschooling and the patriarchs who are homeschooling, the nobles who are homeschooling. And go and look those up so that you can see where, what to, have the heirs to read those things, because a lot of it has to do with etymology and vocabulary, which I believe is the name of one of Justice Abdullah Talib Mosey Bey's books as well. So Empress Carla or Empress Michelle, did you all have any other additional resources or any other additional things that you wanted to say or reiterate even from the information that was put up previously?
It's fine. I'm Michelle Austin, Talbot Bay. I don't have anything to add right now. I really am interested in finding out if anyone has any questions regarding implication, with them just getting started, if they've had any difficulty, if they had any questions about anything. That's what I'm interested in hearing from. Islam, I yield.
Okay.
Islam, this is Empress Carla. Hello.
Islam, Empress.
Islam. And only thing I had one thing to say. If you all come across any cassette tapes, purchase or consume, hold as many as you can, because we want to also make a library, but we want to use not only digital, we want to use a cassette. So if we have Mosey Bey or something that Grand Sheik is teaching and we want to teach it or implement it within a lesson definitely and to draw from it, we could also have it on cassette, so that way the children are allowed to have cassette.
Is this the Welfare Mother Sid Show, Polly?
I found one vendor that has 72 cassette tapes. That's an old thing, but it's easy to make a lot of tapes at one time, opposed to CDs. I yield.
Islam. I don't know how many of us have cassette players. I know I do have cassettes, so I would have to look through and see if there's anything, but I doubt it, because they were from previously. They were from before I woke up. So Islam.
You're all fucking losers.
Empress Carla, thank you for that as well. With regard to just one moment. Let me make sure.
You're fucking losers.
I know that Empress Princess entered some information in the chat. I want to know if she wanted to speak about that for those who may not be able to see the chat.
That is the book that Empress Light was speaking of, Etymology and Vocabulary by Abdullah Bey. I don't know if RV Publications actually sells books or not, if they had it on, but this is the first thing that I saw when I brought it up on Google. And I know that bookstore that's in Philadelphia, Black and Noble, so it's on sale right now. And I think what we can do is get a list of all the books. I can go back and review them and then tell people how to build their library.
Islam. Okay, and then with regard to the areas. At some point, we're going to be moving into, as you all know, the ones who were previously occupying the school buildings and the college campuses, etc., are moving off of those places. And so we're going to be looking in the direction of, as soon as possible, starting to move into those areas. Okay. Everything that is ours is available. It's available, and we have to do the demonstrations to begin moving into those areas. Okay. If you see any buildings, any school buildings in your territory where they're saying, oh, you know, we can't come back because of COVID, you know, and all of that, just make a note of it. And then if you want to go ahead and place a lien on it and on everyone claiming an interest in it, and claim it on government letterhead, that would be a good start for us, as well as anyone doing business as the school board. The school board, the principals, all of them, those people, those are the ones who, a lot of them had plans on vaccinating, and they were actually going to go along with that whole vaccination and keeping children overnight and, you know, shuffling them back and forth without permission and all of that. And so we need to get that construct that they work from out of the way. It's a construct, because I know that some of them are Moors. Some of the teachers are Moors. And so if we remove the construct, then they have an opportunity to proclaim their nationality and be out of judgment's way. They can be out of the way of judgment if they go ahead and proclaim their nationality and come out of that construct. And it's getting closer and closer to the time where those who depended on 9 to 5s and things like that, it's getting closer and closer to time for them to have to make a decision on what they want to do. In terms of they're going to proclaim their nationality and, you know, take whatever is coming out of the door, take that and get out. You know, if you're going to be retiring, or if you're going to be, you know, whatever. I'm not giving any advice about that. What I'm doing is saying to consult the ancestors on how to best get out of that system unscathed, because that system is not here. It's really not, it's non-existent at this point. And then the new system is already here as well. It's in a form that, you know, is not readily evident to everyone, but those with eyes can see and those with ears can hear. And they already know, and we already know that we are, you know, we have to carry on our land. It's up to us. It's not up to anyone else. And so, you know, those who are in those systems, just be thinking and consulting with the ancestors on what to do next, you know, because no one can tell the heirs what to do. But we have to keep moving forward. So with regard to, is everyone familiar with the process of claiming the schools, the school buildings and the colleges and universities? The buildings. We're not claiming the corporate status. We don't need the corporate. We need them to, you know, they're finished. So we need to, is everyone familiar with that process on how to get it started?
I'm not completely aware of how to get it started, but I remember that Empress Michelle told me to, I can go to zoning or somewhere. I wrote it down. I have a note in my book, but I'm not home right now. But she gave me some information on to claim a person, not the buildings. That each school has a person name behind it besides the Board of Education, per se.
Yes, there'll be like the president of the Board of Education, et cetera. Go ahead, Empress. I'm sorry.
Yes. So if you could share on what the steps are, and maybe if they could write in the chat or something, or maybe email it to make sure I will follow those steps. But I'm part of it because Empress Michelle discussed it with me before. So could you share? Islam.
Empress Michelle, were you going to comment on that?
Yeah, I was just explaining to Empress that it is the individual and not the corporate entity, not the building itself. For example, the Board of Education. You want to say the individual doing business as the Board of Education and so on and so forth. But I can definitely contact you, Empress, after the meeting regarding that.
Thank you, Empress. Both Empresses doing great work. Islam, great work. So the process for claiming the school buildings to start, this is just the start of it, is going to be first, you must be a proclaimed Moorish American national on the public record. You must be of the bloodline and birthright, which means your mother and your mother's mother must be of the bloodline and birthright. They must be Moorish Americans, born at America, and the descendants of Moroccans. That's step number one. Step number two is to terminate all corporate contracts. Terminate all corporate contracts. And the termination of all corporate contracts means that you are stepping up and saying that the paperwork that's been on top of my resources is hereby removed because it is corporate paperwork. The benefits and resources stay right in place, and I'm the creditor to those resources, so they keep coming. That's what that means. So sometimes when we're that's the next step, is termination of all corporate contracts. And then what you want to do is place a universal, original, indigenous, sovereign, natural, divine, universal commercial code 1 lien on them in red in all lowercase letters, because we are the creditors to all the nations. And so you put a universal commercial code 1 lien on them, on that building, on the tax assessor, on whoever is claiming to be the president of the Board of Education in that area, and whoever is claiming to be the principal of that school, etc. Okay, and then you'll want to. I'm gonna have to unlock the meeting because people are getting dropped and they can't get back in. And then you'll want to.
Pauline, why don't you fucking leave?
And then, after you file the lien, you're going to want to.
You fuckers will end up in jail.
After you file. I'm
the
not
fucking moops, y'all. Pauline,
quiet. And then. Once you file the lien, you'll want to do a court action on them, a sovereign court action. And when you do the sovereign court action on them, on whoever it is that you lien, you just take the lien and everybody that you lien, and you call them into your sovereign court. And when you call them into your sovereign court, should they not appear, you say that the American Provost Marshal has been notified and is hereby commanded to arrest you and place you at Guantanamo Bay. And you can say where your decapitation will occur, because decapitation means removal from office, which is what we have done to all of those who are now, as you can see, around all of that fake corporate stuff, all of that. That's what we're removing off of our resources. and some could not see the removal at the time that it was done, but some can see it now, that the removal is in full force based on the heirs and what the heirs have said. So once you've done that court action and you've had that corporate covering removed off of the building, then you need to create a allodial title, place the title in allodium or in trust, and when you do the lien, it's going to place it in the national trust already. The national trust has always been, it never was not. There never was a time when the national trust was not, just like there never was a time when we were not. Okay, we've always been, and we've always had trust. And that's another something that we're getting back to with one another as well, because that's a part of it. A trust is written on paper, but a trust is also the relationship between the heirs, one to another. And that trust, as long as there are two heirs, because 2 or 3 witnesses is what it is, as long as there are 2 heirs on this earth who trust one another, the trust is there. Okay. But the trust has always been, it never was not. So whenever you do your liens, you don't, you can go ahead and do the court actions and everything. The trust is already there. But you can create another one if you want to. Again, sovereigns can do whatever they want. No one can tell a sovereign what to do. No one. We can't even tell each other what to do. We can make suggestions, and then we hold one another in honor. And holding one another in honor does not mean accusing one another or anything like that. It means that we honor one another's sovereign status, and that sovereign status should always be honored at all times. Okay. And then once you've created a allodial title to the building, then you'll want to also, while you're doing these actions, you're constantly notifying. Now, you're not notifying really people. You call them by name, but you're not really notifying people. You're notifying a system. Okay.
Pauline, I fucking command you, Pauline.
And that system that we notify just means that we tell them that this is what we're doing, and then we continue moving forward in our actions. Okay, that's what notification is. Notification is not asking permission or anything. It's just tell them this is what's happening, and then we keep going. And the place that we're at right now, this is really important. The place that we're at right now is that we said these things, and now everything that we were bold enough to put into motion, no one was able to stop. We put some powerful things in motion. Our courts, no one could stop that. They tried, but they couldn't. Our liens, no one could stop that.
So full of fucking shit.
Okay? No one could stop that. Okay? And the worst they can do is hurl a few empty words. But that doesn't stop anything. So I often wonder why they still do it, but okay. They couldn't stop it. We kept going. And so anything that we're bold enough to do now, no one's going to be able to stop it because the law is on our side. We are the law. So now we have to start claiming the property and then protecting it. I'll give you an example of how the Albions have taught us how to govern in that area. Whenever they put a building that's a quote-unquote federal building, the way that they claim that it's federal is they put federal, quote-unquote federal, security there. Now, no one's going to come up and start shooting security. No one does that. That's not what happens on this landmass. But that is a step that we must take. When we claim something, we have to be able to secure it. And securing it means having heirs to be there, so that when the other heirs come, they have whatever it is they need. They're met with more peace energy when they get there. And they know that everything is in alignment when they get there. The buildings that we secure, you know, even the schools and things like that, those things have to be, we have to have security, Moorish security, not Albion security, not Rent-A-Cop. It has to be us there, or else it doesn't belong to us. In other words, and it does belong to us, but we have to show that we're competent to govern it. Governing it means securing it. You don't leave it unsecured. And that's where we are now. Some are a bit frustrated at being at that place because we actually have to get up and go and do the work. You know, all of us at some point have land that we've claimed and domiciles and things that we've claimed. We have to secure them. And that's where we are now. And in order to get beyond this point, we're going to have to come together in the territories, in all the territories. We have to come together and be prepared to put the all in front of the one, the individual. You know, we have to put those. We are one, so we have, that has to be our top priority. That's the only way it's going to be done. If you just look at the Albions and look at how they did it, you'll see that this is now the time for us to come all the way together and stand and start doing things. I know it's a little bit, you know, we're wondering, you know, about paychecks and things like that. And those things are, that's a valid concern. It's a valid concern, but it can't be the concern that stops us from doing what we need to do in order to secure the nation. Because that will come. And for many of us, it's already, you know, we get a certain number of sovereign credits that go into our sovereign credit accounts each month that we use to live off of. But there's more than just us we have to worry about. There's a whole nation that we have to worry about. And if a few of us will come together, claim a property and guard the property, you know, and provide peaceful security for the property, and then begin to use the property in the right manner, then that's going to set the precedent for every place else on our land. It'll set the precedent, and then we'll know, okay, this is what we do. In the chat, Empress Princess Ali said, do you recommend using a fleet Moors to guard? I recommend that we always use declared Moors, because there's a certain law that they'll have to speak if they're confronted. They must know who they are, and they must be able to speak the law, because they need to know who's really in charge. If a fake policy enforcer comes up, they have to know that the fake policy enforcer has no authority over them, and sleeping Moors don't know that. You know, so that's a great question, Empress, because, you know, it would be easy for us to pass some fiat to someone and say, guard this, but then the minute a policy enforcer walks up, where are they? Because they don't know how to defend themselves. And it's not even a matter of defense, it's a matter of being proactive. You know, so they have to be awake. And Empress Valerie Price Bay, what you're saying is absolutely correct, as we are competent. See, those things go hand in hand. Empress Valerie Price Bay said the ancestors will make sure we are well taken care of with love and goodness. That is absolutely correct. And they do that as we know law and as we execute and operate at law. All of goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our lives when we are at law, when we're being the law that we are. The whole estate belongs to us already, but the only way for that to manifest is that we are the law, and we're the law in every way. And in every way and on all dimensions means even on this dimension, we are to be the law. We say we are the law, but, and there's no buts about that, we are. And now it's time to manifest that in the physical. I know it's scary for some. I know it's scary. That's a scary thought because we've been programmed. But we also know how to deprogram so that we can get this done, get past this step. All we need really is one territory, any territory. Doesn't have to be this one. It can be any territory where the Moors are all nationalized. They all know how to state who they really are, and that they can be the peace officers for a property, okay, but it has to be done peacefully. It cannot be done with guns and violence. We can't do it that way because that's not how this works. And when we know who we are, we know we won't need that stuff. We can stand out there in white with our turbans and fezzes on and peacefully state who we are. And no one can do a thing about it. I know because I lived it, and many of you have lived it also, where fake policy enforcers came up and we knew not to say anything because the public record speaks for us. Our lawful competent affidavits speak for us. We didn't have to say anything because we knew they didn't have any authority. That's happened here. I've shown that even in photos and court actions. We are the law. We have to be that. Now, had we had, and this is for any of the buildings that are claimed, we have to have at least 2 Moorish wazirs to stand for those buildings, one in the front and one in the back, and preferably 2. We go in pairs, 2 by 2. And they need to know how to guard the places and just to speak competently and peacefully who they are, because those are the only issues that will be at play. Those are the only issues. Once court actions are done, then we have a sovereign action on the public record. I mean, think about that. That's all they did. And they didn't even have sovereign documents. They had fake corporate documents. And that gave them the fake authority to put policy enforcers there. And now they're putting policy enforcers into those, well, they were putting them into those fake schools when they were occupying the schools unlawfully. They were putting them there, and they were going to attempt to take the children. And so we're not going to stand by and let that happen. Never. And so the place that we're at right now is we have to actually manifest the enforcement. And Moors are ready to do that, but they have to be cool-headed, because there are not a lot, but there are some Moors who are warriors in spirit. And the warrior spirit that, in spirit is good, but it can't manifest in the flesh. We're all warriors in the spirit, but it can't manifest on the land. War cannot manifest through us on the land. So are there any questions about that, about protection of the schools where the heirs are concerned? Because That is all things that have to be thought about as you're doing your court actions to claim the buildings and everything. We have to think about the next step. We have the curriculum. We have curriculum to get started. We have the court already in our favor because we're the court. We have the financial piece in our favor because we've already liened, and then those who have not they will lien the schools and et cetera. And then we have to provide the security for the place and maintenance for the place. Security and maintenance. Competent, peaceful security and competent, peaceful maintenance. Those who are doing 9-to-5 jobs, you're already doing that. Maintenance. And in some cases, security. So, you know, that's where we are right now. And the frustration that is being felt by some is they keep yelling about enforcement when they are the enforcement. Where's the enforcement? You're it. Congratulations. So, and to me, I think that's beautiful. I think we can do it. Go ahead, Empress.
Yes. Yesterday I had to go to the Bronx to buy some towels. So I got my energy right because I knew I was not paying tax. So my energy was good. I went in. Now it's time to pay. So I said to the guy, I'm not taxed. So he said, okay, fine. So he went to his boss. I gave him the card, and I showed him the number. And his boss says, I don't know nothing about that. You have to bring this long sheet. So I said, no, I am not tax exempt. I'm not taxed. So he says, I don't know what that is. So I looked at him in his eye. I said, what is your name? And I laughed later on, but at that time I was just so serious. He says, Kevin. He says, okay, just give it to her. Just give it to her. And that was the end of it. I bought my towels and I left. But it was interesting because he says, well, I don't know anything about this. And I'm sure he may have been telling the truth. But the funny part, when it seemed like he was a kindergarten, when he said, Kevin, because what was going on in his mind, he probably said, let this go because it may be opening up a big can of worms. Islam, I yield.
Islam. It's that simple, but we have to stand. We have to stand. And even where the buildings and claiming of the schools, our heirs are worth it. I'm just going to tell you, our heirs are worth it. They're worth, I would get up every day and go and stand in front of the school with my white turban on and my white uniform on as a Moorish guard, a Moorish wazir or wali or razam or whatever, so that the children, so that the heirs can come and go safely under our watchful eye, back and forth so that they can learn who they are. I don't know if you all remember, there was an incident back in history where George Wallace, he was a former governor. He was doing business as former governor of the state of Alabama Corporation, and there was a time where he stood in front of a school building, and he had I believe it was military or state troopers or National Guard or something. He had them there, and they were trying to stop some of us from going into their school, and it's not even their school, but it was a corporate school at the time. And the only way he was able to do that, they ended up letting the heirs in to go into the school. so they could learn, but the heirs didn't stay there long. But he made a big public stand with the military there. Okay, that was a public relations piece to scare the heirs, and he would not have been able to do any of that had he not had the military there or some guards there or something. As you know, there's no, I mean, where we're concerned, there's no one that's stopping us from doing that. They can't stop us because we're the law. Again, we're not making a big stand. All we're doing is educating our heirs. That's it.
Hey, Melo, how come you haven't taken over?
It's not even education. It is erudition. They need their erudition, the opportunity for erudition teaching in an environment that is conducive to that has all of the supplies, that has the, everything that we need in there. They deserve that, and it was like that. I posted a photo on my page back on my social media.
Come on, Melo, what's your problem?
A picture from the 1940s, a photo from the 1940s of Moors in their school, in their class, in their classroom. Our heirs are worth it, and there's no reason why we can't move forward with that. We have already the matriarchs are prepared to teach. Okay, the matriarchs are prepared to teach. We have the curriculum. We have the course and all of that. So the only thing that we need now is the security. And, we need the sons to step up to do that as well, but the matriarchs can do that too, And so we just need one territory to model that, to model what it looks like. We'll be modeling it here ASAP. As soon as we get enough Moors here in this territory to do it, we're going to model that. So, having said that, we're a little bit over an hour. We're going to go ahead and
what the fuck's your
end the call at this time. If there are no other questions or comments, and then next week we will pick up. If there's any additions to the curriculum next week, we'll do it. And if there's any other information with regard to any contribution where our schools are concerned, we'll do it. We'll bring that forward. Otherwise, we'll continue on with national business as usual, because again, at this time right now, there are no, we have no hindrances. Everything else is a wrap. And so now is the time for us to step up and move forward. And we're going to do that. We're going to continue to do that. And with that, hopefully my uniform will be, my outfit will be, the uniform will be here, so that I can show you what that looks like. And most likely, if it comes before our next meeting, I'll post it on social media. And then we'll talk about improvements to it that we can make. And again, this is a part of the schools and all of that, is we're going to need security there to do that as well. That being all, peace and grand rising to the heirs. Islam.
Come on, Melo. What's the problem, Melo?
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Peace and love. Grand rising. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Peace and love.
I command you to lock this call up, Pauline. I command you. Pauline, I command you to lock this call up. I command you to lock this call up, Pauline. I command you. Fucking moops, grand losers. Fucking moops, you're a bunch of grand losers. Fucking stupid moops. Fuck you, stupid moops, you fucker moops. You all a bunch of cult losers. You moops are a bunch of losers.
Grand rising to the air.